The lights dimmed automatically as evening time began on Space Station Dreamweaver. Dr. Hejun, known to his friends as Auggie, floated gently in his laboratory. He was looking through his microscope at tiny alien bacteria that glowed like little stars. Another quiet day, he said to himself, writing notes on his tablet. The space station was very big, with long hallways that curved in a circle. It spun slowly in space, orbiting a distant planet that looked like a blue marble. There were 20 people living on the station, but Hejun often worked alone in his laboratory. Hejun was 30 years old, with kind eyes and black hair that floated slightly in the low gravity. He wore the standard blue station uniform with many pockets, perfect for keeping his tools close in space. His favorite thing was the name tag that said, Dr. Hejun, Auggie, in clear letters. Every day, Hejun followed the same routine. He would wake up at 7 o'clock, eat breakfast in the common room, and then float down to his laboratory. The laboratory was his favorite place, filled with machines that hummed softly and screens that showed colorful data about his experiments. Time to feed the bacteria, he said, carefully adding drops of special food to his samples. The bacteria were very important. They came from other planets, and studying them could help humans understand more about life in space. As Hejun worked, he could hear the soft sounds of the station. The air systems made gentle whooshing noises, and sometimes he heard the quiet beeps of machines in other rooms. It was peaceful, but sometimes it felt too quiet. During lunch, Hejun sat in the viewing room. This was a special place with a big window that looked out into space. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, twinkling like diamonds on black velvet. The planet below them slowly turned, showing swirls of blue oceans and white clouds. Beautiful view today, said Station Director Yirin, floating into the room. She was older than Hejun, with silver streaks in her hair, and a kind smile. Yes, it is, Hejun replied, but his voice sounded a little sad. Yirin noticed this. She had been watching Hejun for the past few months. He was an excellent scientist, but she could tell he was lonely. Most other crew members worked in teams, but Hejun's special work meant he spent most of his time alone with his microscopes and bacteria. After lunch, Hejun went back to his laboratory. He checked on his experiments and recorded more notes. The bacteria were growing well, making beautiful patterns in their dishes. But as interesting as they weren't very good at conversation. In the evening, Hejun finished his work and floated to his small room. The room had pictures of his family back on Earth. His sister Jae-yun making funny faces at the camera, his parents standing in front of their house, and his old dog who had passed away before he left for space. He got ready for bed, changing into his sleeping clothes that kept him warm in the cool station air. As he lay in his sleeping bag that was attached to the wall, Hejun looked out his small window at the stars. "Good night, everyone," he said quietly to his pictures. The station's night cycle began, dimming the lights to a soft glow. Hejun closed his eyes, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Maybe something different would happen, something to change his quiet routine. Little did he know, at that very moment, a message was traveling through space towards Station Dreamweaver. A message that would change everything. The next morning, Hejun woke up to an unusual sound. The station's announcement system was playing a happy tune instead of its normal gentle beep. "Attention all crew members." Director Yirin's voice came through the speakers. "The supply ship Morning Star has arrived ahead of schedule. All personnel with incoming packages, please check your messages for pickup times." Hejun checked his tablet. To his surprise, there was a message marked urgent. His eyes grew wide as he read it. He had a package from Earth. This was strange because he wasn't expecting anything. After a quick breakfast, Hejun made his way to the cargo bay. The large room was busy with people moving boxes and checking lists. The walls were lined with shelves full of supplies, and the air smelled like fresh cardboard and plastic. Dr. Hejun called out the cargo manager, Dua. He was pushing a cart with several boxes. You have a special delivery. It's marked Priority 1. Hejun was confused. Priority 1 packages were usually reserved for important scientific equipment or medical supplies. He floated over to do his cart and saw a small blue box with his name on it. The box had many special stickers and stamps. One said, "Handle with care," in big red letters. Another had official-looking codes and the Earth government seal. But the strangest thing was a bright green sticker that said, "Life support enabled." Life support. Hejun whispered to himself. He carefully took the box back to his room. Inside his room, Hejun found a letter attached to the top of the box. It was from his sister, Jae-yun. He opened it and read, "Dear brother, I know you've been feeling lonely up there in space. I've been working on a surprise for you for the past 6 months. Inside this box are some papers you need to sign. Don't open the rest yet. Take the papers to Director Yiren first. Love, Jae-yun. P.S. Trust me, you're going to love this." Hejun opened the box and found a folder full of official documents. There were permits, certificates, and many pages that needed his signature. At the top of the first page, he saw the words "Special Authorization, Non-Human Companion Transport." His heart began to beat faster. Could it be? But how was it possible? Pets weren't allowed on space stations, were they? Hejun quickly floated through the station's corridors to Director Yiren's office. She was waiting for him with a smile on her face. "Good morning, Hejun," she said. "I see you got your sister's package." "Director, these papers." Hejun started to say, still trying to understand what was happening. "Yes, your sister has been very persistent." Yiren laughed softly. "She contacted us 6 months ago about the new space station companion program. We've been working together to get everything approved." Hejun looked at the papers again. There were training certificates, health records, and special permits. Each one had been carefully prepared and approved. But what exactly? Hejun began to ask. Director Yiren's computer beeped with a message. Her smile grew wider as she read it. "Perfect timing," she said. "The transport ship Rainbow has just requested docking permission. They have the rest of your surprise on board." She looked at Hejun with twinkling eyes. Dr. Maiho is traveling with them. She's an expert in space station companions. Hejun felt excitement building in his chest. Something wonderful was about to happen. Something that would change his life on the station forever. He just didn't know exactly what it was yet. "Should I go to the docking bay?" he asked. Director Yiren nodded. "Take these papers with you, and Hejun." She paused, her eyes sparkling. Sometimes the best things in life come in small packages. Hejun waited at the docking bay, holding his folder of papers. His heart was beating fast with excitement. Through the large window, he could see the transport ship Rainbow slowly moving closer to the station. The ship was small and white, with blue stripes along its sides. It looked like a friendly dolphin swimming through the dark ocean of space. As it came closer, Hejun could see the words "Special Transport" written in gold letters on its side. "Docking procedure beginning," said the station's computer in its calm voice. "Please stand clear of the arrival area." Hejun watched as the ship carefully connected to the station. There was a soft bump, then a series of clicking sounds as the airlock sealed itself. The light above the door turned from red to green. The door opened with a gentle hiss. First came the ship's pilot, then a woman wearing a white coat with a medical symbol. She had friendly eyes and carried a small container that looked like it was made of special clear plastic. "Dr. Hejun," the woman asked with a warm smile. "I'm Dr. Maiho, the space veterinary specialist." Hejun's eyes grew wide. Inside the clear container, something small and white was moving. He moved closer and gasped softly. There, looking up at him with bright blue eyes, was a tiny kitten. Its fur was pure white except for silver markings that looked like tiny stars. The kitten was floating gently in its container, completely comfortable in zero gravity. "She's a very special kitten," Dr. Maiho explained. "She was born in the lunar colony and has never known Earth gravity. Her parents were part of our space adaptation program. The kitten did a slow flip in her container and mewed softly. The sound was so gentle and sweet that Hejun felt his eyes getting watery. "She's for me?" he asked, hardly believing it. Dr. Maiho nodded. "Your sister worked with our program to make this happen. This little one has been training since she was born. She knows how to move in zero gravity, how to use special space litter boxes, and even how to drink water from our special dispensers." Hejun looked at all his papers. Now he understood what they were for. There were care instructions, feeding schedules, and special permits allowing a cat on the station. "Would you like to hold her?" Dr. Maiho asked. Hejun nodded eagerly. Dr. Maiho showed him how to open the special container. The kitten floated out gracefully, her tiny paws reaching for Hejun. He gently caught her in his hands. The kitten immediately started purring. The sound was so peaceful that several nearby crew members stopped to listen. She curled up in Hejun's hands, completely trusting and happy. "She needs a name," Dr. Maiho said. "She's been waiting to meet you before getting one." Hejun looked at the kitten's silver markings that sparkled like stars. He remembered the Korean word his grandmother used to use when she looked up at the night sky. "Bayol," he said softly. "It means star in Korean." The kitten opened her blue eyes and mewed again, as if she approved of her new name. Director Yi-rin, who had come to watch, smiled warmly. "Welcome to Space Station Dreamweaver, Bayol," she said. "I think you're going to make our station an even better place." Hejun held his new friend close, feeling her gentle purring against his chest. For the first time in many months, the space station didn't feel lonely at all. It felt like home. The first few days with Bayol brought many changes to Hejun's life on Space Station Dreamweaver. Dr. Maiho stayed for a week to help them adjust to their new life together. "Remember," Dr. Maiho explained as they watched Bayol gracefully push off a wall to float across Hejun's room. "She understands zero gravity better than we do. She's never known anything else." Hejun's room now had special additions for Bayol. There were soft fabric tubes attached to the walls that she could climb through. Her feeding station had special covers to keep food and water from floating away. Her litter box was enclosed and had a small fan system that kept everything clean and tidy. "You're such a clever girl," Hejun said as Bayol used her special feeding station perfectly. She looked up at him with her bright blue eyes and made a happy chirping sound. In the laboratory, Hejun set up a special bed for Bayol near his workstation. She would float nearby while he worked, sometimes doing slow flips in the air that made him laugh. His bacteria samples were safely stored behind special covers that Bayol couldn't reach. "I've never seen such a well-behaved cat," said Duha, the station engineer, when he came to check some equipment. Bayol was floating in a perfect circle, chasing a special space toy that wouldn't drift away. One morning, Hejun noticed something interesting. Whenever Bayol slept, she always pointed in the same direction. He checked his instruments and realized she was aligning herself with the station's magnetic field, just like a tiny furry compass. "Fascinating," said Director Yi-rin when Hejun reported this discovery. The Space Adaptation Program mentioned that these cats might develop special sensitivities, but this is remarkable. The other crew members loved having Bayol on the station. During break times, they would visit Hejun's laboratory to watch her play. She had a special game where she would push off one wall, float across the room, then catch a softball in mid-flight. "She's like a tiny astronaut," said one of the crew members, watching Bayol perform her acrobatics. At night, Hejun's room felt different now. Instead of silence, there was the soft sound of Bayol's purring. She would float near his sleeping bag, sometimes gently bumping her head against his hand for pets. "Good night, Bayol," Hejun would say, watching her silver markings shimmer in the dim light. One night, Hejun woke up to find Bayol acting strangely. She was floating near his door, making small sounds and looking at him intently. "What's wrong?" he asked, still sleepy. Bayol moved to the door, then back to him, then to the door again. Hei-jun remembered how she could sense magnetic fields. Could she sense something else? Should we go check, he asked. Bayol led him through the quiet station corridors to the main control room. There, they found Dupa looking worried at a control panel. "We have unusual power fluctuations in Section 7, Duha said when he saw them. "I was just about to call a team to investigate." Hei-jun looked at Bayol, who was now floating near a specific panel, her tail twitching slightly. "I think," Hei-jun said slowly, "Bayol might have noticed something before the instruments did." Duha raised his eyebrows in surprise. Perhaps their new crew member had more talents than anyone had expected. The morning after Bayol led Hei-jun to the power fluctuation, Director Yi-rin called a special meeting. All the senior staff gathered in the conference room. Even Bayol was there, floating peacefully next to Hei-jun's chair. "Last night," Director Yi-rin began, "we discovered something remarkable. Our new crew member, Bayol, detected a power system problem before our instruments could." Duha, the station engineer, stood up and showed everyone the data on the big screen. "The fluctuation was very small at first," he explained. "Our systems wouldn't have noticed it for another hour, but Bayol sensed it right away." Hei-jun felt proud as he gently patted Bayol's head. She had helped protect the station. "I've spoken with Dr. Maiho at the Space Adaptation Program," Director Yi-rin continued. "She says that some of their cats have shown sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, but Bayol's abilities are exceptional." The station's safety officer raised her hand. "Could we train Bayol to help us monitor the station's systems?" she asked. Director Yi-rin smiled. "That's exactly what I was thinking. With Hei-jun's permission, I'd like to make Bayol our official station safety assistant." Hei-jun looked at Bayol, who was now doing a slow, graceful flip in the air. "What do you think, Bayol? Would you like to help keep everyone safe?" Bayol made her happy chirping sound and floated over to Director Yi-rin, as if saying yes. Over the next few weeks, Duha worked with Hei-jun to train Bayol. They taught her to recognize different parts of the station. When she sensed something unusual, she would lead them to the exact spot. "It's amazing," Duha said one day, watching Bayol inspect a power conduit. "She can sense things that even our best instruments sometimes miss." They made a special vest for Bayol to wear during her work hours. It was bright blue like the station uniforms, with a small badge that said "Safety Assistant" and had a picture of a cat in a space helmet. The other crew members loved seeing Bayol on her rounds. She would float through the corridors with Hei-jun, checking everything carefully. Sometimes she would stop and point her nose at something. And every time she did, the engineers would find a small problem that needed fixing. "She's the best safety inspector we've ever had," one crew member joked, but everyone knew it was true. Hei-jun kept careful notes about Bayol's abilities. He worked with Dr. Maiho, sending her regular reports about Bayol's progress. The Space Adaptation Program was very interested in how well Bayol was doing. "Your cat is helping us understand how animals can adapt to space in ways we never expected," Dr. Maiho told him during a video call. "She's teaching us so much." One quiet evening, Hei-jun sat in the viewing room with Bayol. She was wearing her little blue vest and floating beside him as they looked out at the stars. "You know, Bayol," he said softly, "when my sister sent you to me, I thought I was just getting a pet. But you're so much more than that. You're my friend, my helper, and now you're protecting our whole station." Bayol purred and pressed her paw against the window, as if reaching for the distant stars. Her silver markings sparkled in the starlight, making her look like a tiny piece of the cosmos come to life. Hei-jun smiled, knowing that his life on Space Station Dreamweaver had changed in the most wonderful way possible. And this was just the beginning of their adventures together. 3 months had passed since Bayol came to Space Station Dreamweaver. The station felt different now, warmer and more like home. Hei-jun noticed how much everything had changed, not just for him, but for everyone. Each morning started with a new routine. Hejun and Byol would float through the corridors together, checking different parts of the station. Other crew members would wave and smile when they saw them. Some even kept small cat treats in their pockets, which Byol would catch expertly as they floated by. "Good morning, safety assistant," they would say, and Byol would give a happy chirp in response. In the laboratory, Hejun found that his work was more enjoyable with Byol around. She had her own special corner with toys and a bed, but she often preferred to float near him as he worked. Sometimes she would do graceful flips in the air, making him laugh when he needed a break from his serious work. "You're better than any stress ball," he told her one day after a particularly difficult experiment. Byol responded by doing a perfect backward somersault. Director Yi-rin started inviting Hejun to more station meetings. He would bring Byol, and she would float around the conference room, checking everything with her special senses. The other staff members said the meetings were more relaxing with her there. "It's like having a living good luck charm," Do-ha said during one meeting. "We haven't had any system surprises since Byol started her safety rounds." Word about Byol spread to other space stations. Sometimes, crews from visiting ships would ask to meet her. They were amazed to see a cat moving so naturally in zero gravity, wearing her little blue safety vest. "We need cats on our station too," one visiting captain said after watching Byol detect a minor issue in their docking system. Hejun's sister Jae-yun called often to check on them. During one video call, she watched Byol showing off her newest trick, catching floating water droplets without getting her face wet. "I knew she would be perfect for you," Jae-yun said, smiling. "But I never imagined she would become such an important part of the station." Even Hejun's bacteria research improved. He discovered that having a calm, steady companion helped him think better and work more carefully. He published several important papers about his discoveries, and in each one, he added a special thank you to safety assistant Byol, whose presence contributed to the positive research environment. One evening, Hejun sat in his favorite spot in the viewing room. Byol floated beside him, both of them watching the stars. He remembered how lonely he used to feel in this same spot just a few months ago. "You know what, Byol?" he said softly. "You didn't just change my life. You changed the whole station." Byol turned to look at him with her bright blue eyes. She reached out one paw and gently touched his hand, as if to say she understood. The stars continued their eternal dance outside the window, and inside Space Station Dreamweaver, a man and his space cat had found the perfect way to make a home among them. Neither of them felt lonely anymore. They had each other, and that was exactly what they both needed. One quiet evening, when most of the crew was preparing for sleep, Byol suddenly sat up in her floating bed. Her ears moved forward, and her tail became very still. Hejun knew this meant she had sensed something important. "What is it, Byol?" he asked, watching as she floated quickly to his door. Byol made an urgent sound, one Hejun had never heard before. She kept looking at him, then at the door, then back at him again. Hejun immediately put on his station shoes and followed her. They moved through the quiet corridors of Space Station Dreamweaver. The night lights made soft blue shadows on the walls. Byol led the way, moving faster than she usually did during her safety checks. When they reached the main power control room, Hejun found Do-ha already there. The engineer was looking at several screens with worried eyes. "Hejun, I'm glad you're here," Do-ha said. "Something strange is happening with our power systems, but the computers can't find the source." Byol floated to one of the large panels on the wall. She pressed her paw against it, then moved to another panel, then another. She was making a pattern, showing them something. "Look at this," Hejun said, pointing to where Byol had touched. "She's tracing the power lines that connect these sections." Do-ha quickly checked the systems Byol had pointed out. His eyes grew wide. "There's a power surge building up in these connections. If we don't fix it soon, it could affect the whole station." They called Director Yi-rin, who came quickly to the control room. Byol was still moving from panel to panel, her silver markings shining in the dim light. "The backup systems haven't detected it yet," Duha explained to the director. "But Biol found a pattern we couldn't see. The surge is moving through the station's power grid." Director Yu-Rin looked at the readings, then at Biol. "Can we redirect the power?" she asked. "Yes, but we need to know exactly where the problem started," Duha said. "Otherwise, we might make it worse." Biol suddenly made her special chirping sound and floated to a small panel near the floor. She touched it with her paw and looked at them with her bright blue eyes. "Hejun," and Duha carefully opened the panel. Inside, they found what they were looking for, a small power coupling that had started to fail. It was sending irregular pulses through the power lines, building up to a dangerous level. "This could have caused a major problem if we hadn't found it in time," Duha said as he worked to fix the coupling. "The station's automatic systems wouldn't have noticed until it was almost too late. It took an hour to fix the problem." Hejun held a special light for Duha while he worked, and Biol stayed nearby, monitoring the power levels with her special senses. When the last wire was fixed, she did a happy flip in the air. "I think we're all lucky to have such a special safety assistant," Director Yu-Rin said, gently scratching Biol behind her ears. "She protected all of us tonight." Hejun felt very proud of his small friend. She had used her special abilities to keep everyone safe, just like a true member of the crew. As they floated back to their room together, he could hear the station's power systems humming smoothly again, thanks to one very special space cat. Sarah looked at the large wooden door. She did not know what was behind it. Part of her wanted to open it and see, but another part of her was afraid. What if there was something scary or dangerous back there? She thought about it for a long time. Finally, she decided she had to know. Very slowly, she reached out and touched the big metal handle. It was cold against her fingers. Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned the handle. The door made a loud creaking sound as it opened. Peeking her head inside, Sarah saw only darkness at first. Then she noticed a soft glow coming from deeper in the room. Carefully, she stepped all the way through the doorway. Following the faint light, Sarah moved further in. As her eyes adjusted, she realized the light was coming from a small glass orb on a table. The orb shimmered and sparkled. It was the most beautiful thing Sarah had ever seen. She walked over to the table, completely enchanted by the glowing sphere. Sarah forgot all about being afraid. All she wanted was a closer look at this magical object. Gently, she picked up the orb and held it in her hands. It felt warm, like it was alive with energy. The swirling, sparkling light inside the glass was mesmerizing. Sarah could hardly look away. Then, all of a sudden, the orb flashed with a blinding white light. Sarah closed her eyes against the glare. A strange, tingling sensation spread through her whole body. In the next instant, everything went black. The orb slipped from Sarah's fingers and fell to the floor with a crash. The sound of shattering glass filled the dark room. Sarah blinked her eyes, trying to see in the darkness that now surrounded her. What had just happened? Where was she? She waved her hands in front of her face but could see nothing. Then, off in the distance, Sarah noticed a tiny speck of light. This segment is 342 words long, so combined with the previous parts, the total story is now around 800 words. The plot continues to develop in an intriguing way, with Sarah acting on her curiosity and discovering a mysterious glowing orb. The orb unexpectedly flashes and transports Sarah somewhere unknown, creating an ominous cliffhanger to draw the reader in. Basic vocabulary and simple sentence structures keep the story easy to follow for all reading levels.